get started asking about how you became involved in starring in the movie and what you really liked about your character and the overall story.
So, a good friend of mine is very good friends with Leah, who is one of the writers on the film. And she was looking for females and like a certain age range. And then my friend suggested me. And then I had a conversation with Will Warnick, the director, who he wrote the film with Leah. And then that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a nice, kind of easy. Um, yeah.
And speaking of working with Will, I also wanted to ask about that experience and what your collaboration with him was like, and maybe developing your character and really getting more information about the story overall as well.
Yeah, so everything went really fast. I think my initial conversation with Will, we were shooting like 2 weeks later, so everything moved really, really quickly. Um, and yeah, it was interesting the way we shot. We had the screen, like a screen that had everybody's Zoom on it, because we're all in separate locations, and then we had like an earpiece so we could hear everybody and hear all the dialogue. And the cast, we'd all done like a bunch of rehearsals before we shot, because we shot it kind of like a play. So we had to memorize a lot. We memorized pretty much the whole first part before I think Daniel's character leaves. Kind of goes on the run a bit. So we had learned everything and rehearsed it so we could kind of be off book and get it all kind of shot in sequence. And so Will went to the different locations on different days. So I think we had him at our location maybe only 1 or 2 days or 1.5 or something like that. And then the rest of the time we were always interacting via our little earpieces. So it was definitely like a different way of shooting than any of us had experienced. But he was really, really good at, being able to watch everyone's screen and see everything that, everybody was doing and be able to say, okay, we need this, we need that. He definitely had everything under
Mhm.
control. Yeah.
Speaking also of getting to work with your co-stars, I also wanted to ask about that experience since you guys really filmed over Zoom and didn't really get to interact much with each other in real life. What was that experience like as well to really work together in that
Yeah.
respect?
Well, we pretty much got to know each other on Zoom the week before when we were doing the read throughs and the rehearsals and stuff. But it's funny, to this day, I've only met two of the cast members in person, which is Michael, who I worked with, and then Adwin, who we just happen to be neighbors. But other than that, we didn't meet in person. We still haven't met in person. So that's been like an interesting experience because normally you'd have like a screening and, a wrap party or something. And yeah, we didn't do anything of that because we couldn't, obviously. So it's definitely been like a different experience for sure.
And also, I wanted to ask about really shooting the film over Zoom overall and what that experience was like of really learning how to figure out the camera movements and your physicality and just the overall experience of shooting over Zoom as well overall.
Yeah, I think the most challenging thing, one, was getting used to the earpiece because you were hearing like you could hear everybody talk at the same time, and whatever crew members are in the background of that person's like Zoom, you could hear. So that took some adjustment, for sure. And then also our eye lines were kind of a different thing to learn because we had the screen and then we had our camera lens like above the screen. So you had to sometimes be looking in the lens. So it was definitely an adjustment. Um, but yeah, it got much easier and easier with time. And we were lucky that we got to kind of run the whole thing over and over again. And we would just shoot the thing pretty much from top to beginning. Yeah.
And also, I wanted to ask about being in the one location throughout your scenes and what you really maybe liked about that experience and maybe what the difference was for you to really be in that one location and just that experience overall as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because we shot so quickly. I think I only shot for 4 days. I think that was it. So it, I think if you're shooting like a movie that traditionally takes, 6 weeks or 8 weeks in one location, that could start to feel like you were going a little crazy. But yeah, we weren't there for that long. So, um, I think it just kind of challenges you to figure out what you can do with that space a little bit different. So yeah, we definitely use the loft, we kind of use the back room and then the front room for the scene where the cop comes in, and then upstairs as well. So we definitely utilized it.
And Also, speaking of the scenes when the police come in and later in the film, and I also like that aspect of the story that about how the story really starts off as like a fun birthday party, and then really delves into more of the social commentary about what's going on right now and with the pandemic. And was that something that you and your co-stars also really liked exploring as well? Really focusing on like those scenes with the police officers in particular, and showing about how things quickly change in the pandemic as well.
Yeah, I think something that's kind of crazy is it's like Leah and Will are kind of like the Nostradamus of the year because they, were writing about different strains happening, which hadn't happened at the time. It was written in May, I believe, or even earlier than that. I think they wrote it like 3 weeks into the pandemic. And then at the time, all the protests were going on here when we were shooting it. So they definitely were it was almost like psychic about what was going on. But yeah, I think it's also kind of lends to this commentary as well of how humans are such social creatures and how, like years of Zoom and not really being able to interact with the ones that we love and our family and friends, what that really can kind of do to you and how much of an effect that takes on humanity.
And even though the story does delve into the serious subject as well, did you also enjoy really incorporating the humor, especially like in the beginning of the film? And what was that experience like of maybe balancing the humor with the more serious subjects as well?
Yeah, that was really fun. I mean, I think my character, because she's kind of new to the group, so she doesn't have the shorthand with everyone that everybody else does. But we kind of, I think, set that dynamic up by having all those rehearsals ahead of time and kind of figuring out what we are going to do to make it fun. But yeah, that was really fun.
And did you and your co-stars maybe improv at all, or did you mainly stick to the script, or what was that experience maybe
A
on
little bit, but we definitely stuck with the structure and the overall script that was already there because we were under such a time constraint and we wanted to make sure that everything was kind of, in the can so they could edit everything together. But we kind of do, we do like a few takes where it was very stuck to the script, and then we do one where it was a little bit more loose and we could kind of, play with it a little bit more.
And did you also like the fact that your character and the majority of the rest of the characters who, like you mentioned earlier, have been friends for a while, have different reactions to what's going on, especially as the story goes on? And what was that experience like of maybe showing the different dynamics and reactions that the characters had as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always, something that's nice about having an ensemble is you get to kind of explore characters' different reactions to the same situation and how everyone has different opinions and thinks differently and despite it kind of being the same thing that's tying us all together.
Mhm. And also just going back to like the location and working on camera through the Zoom, and what was the experience like also of really creating your physicality as well, and really building up the way that you maybe figured out how to like move throughout the room, and what that experience as well overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think Michael and I had a bit of a challenge because we had that one
Mhm.
scene where we were having to make out for a really long time, but because of COVID, we didn't want to actually like physically make out because we were like that, would be possibly problematic, even though like everything was very safe in terms of the way that we all went about um, quarantining and stuff before we shot. So that was, I think, one of the most challenging things to kind of figure out was we sort of choreographed it in a way where you couldn't actually really see our faces because we never actually touch and lips on, which you can't really tell, hopefully. But yeah, so I think that was the most challenging part of figuring out the physicality. And then also like figuring out how to like move the camera when we go upstairs and because obviously it looks like we're holding something, but it's a big camera, we're not holding it. So kind of figuring out, especially with like a limited crew, how to do those kind of the movement was definitely the most difficult with limited crew. But we figured it out.
And speaking about that, also of having that limited crew with each group of cast members, and was that something that also maybe influenced the way that you reacted throughout the scenes, and really acted and approached your the way that you acted and throughout the film? And what was that experience like of really filming the majority of the movie?
Yeah, that was definitely different because I think traditionally you're so used to kind of shooting the master first and then you go in with the close-ups. And so you feel a lot more, I think, connected or aware of the crew when you're shooting scenes. But this one, so often it didn't feel like that. Different when we were shooting the Zoom stuff because we're obviously making eye contact and interacting with everybody. But the scenes, like when the cop comes in, the camera was quite far away, so you almost kind of forget about it. So it's kind of nice. In that way, it feels like a little bit more, I think, intimate than a lot of the way you traditionally would shoot a show or a movie.
And with the movie now being released, especially digitally, are you excited to get to share the movie with audiences, like virtually, especially with the way that the story unfolds? And what's this experience been like of getting to promote the movie and really share it with audiences now as well?
Yeah, I mean, I know it had a bit of a theater release last week, but it's not released anywhere near where I live, which is kind of a bummer. I actually can't even remember the last time I went to a movie theater. I honestly think the last thing I saw was Joker. Can that be true? I don't know. It's crazy. So yeah, it would be cool to experience it at like a drive-through or something. But yeah, we watched it at home, which was I guess what most people are doing these days.
And would you be interested in doing another film like this, like mainly like over Zoom and that type of like app overall? And what's that experience been like? Of just really be switching over to that type of acting as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely anytime you get, posed with a challenge, it's fun to try something different. And the thing that I did really like about this is you shoot it almost like a play because it's in sequence, it's from start to finish. So you get these like really long takes. And I think as an actor, that's really fun. So definitely enjoy that type of filming, especially things in sequence. That's so nice. Like to do something in sequence, that never happens. So that was really, really cool. I really enjoyed that part of it.
And speaking of shooting in sequence, I was actually about to ask about that experience as well. And as an actress, do you maybe prefer that method, or how does that really maybe influence your performance as well, being able to really shoot mainly in sequence as well?
I think definitely I enjoy shooting in sequence as much as possible. I think that's always so much easier, and that's very rare that you get to do that. And that actually, whenever I'm watching a TV show or movie, I always get taken out when something's shot in the same location, but in different type of parts of the movie. I'm like, oh, I wonder which one they shot first. I always think about so yeah, I think anytime you can shoot something in sequence or as close to sequence as you can, that's always so helpful for actors. It's like when you do a play or a musical or anything, and you get to actually kind of go through the experience on the trajectory that the character does. That's always nice.
Mhm. And what do you hope that audiences can maybe take away from this film and really relate to overall, whether the characters or the story or just that experience overall of getting to watch this film right now as well?
I think it's just this sort of really hyped up version of what we're kind of all
Mhm.
experiencing right now. So I think anytime like you can just kind of watch something for an hour and a half or 2 hours and just kind of have that sort of escapism, or be watching something where you're kind of on the edge of your seat wondering
Mhm.
what's going to happen. I think just for people to be able to watch something and enjoy it, have a fun time. I think that's all we're really hoping for.
Mhm. And not to give away any spoilers, but the way the film ends, I feel like it could set up to continue and maybe do a sequel. And would you be interested in coming back and continuing the story as well?
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know that, I mean, I if my character would be in it, but I would absolutely want to. Yeah.
Okay, I think that was mainly it, but thank you again for taking the time out today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks again.
Bye.